Hey. Good morning, Mackinac. It is good to see everybody here in person this year. I trust you guys have had a great conference so far. Make sure you stop by and see me sitting in the parlor of the Grand Hotel as we continue to live stream the entire conference for you on Detroit Public Television. You know, when Tammy Carnreich emailed me and asked me to moderate this next session, I was thrilled to be able to have this conversation with Roz Brewer. She is a dynamic businesswoman. She is on Fortune's list of the most powerful businesswomen in the world. She has worked as the CEO for Sam's Club, COO for Starbucks. She is now the CEO of Walgreens Boots Alliance, and she's a Detroit girl. So give her a warm welcome. Roz Brewer. Roz.
Thank you.
It's great to see you, and I love this format that we get to talk a little bit. You are also a Cass Tech grad, and I'm sure we have some Cass Tech fans out here.
Yes, I am, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Why don't you go ahead and give us a sense of the Detroit upbringing? You are the youngest of 5, and what was it growing up in Detroit with your mom and dad that really kind of informed where you are in your career today and how you work each day?
Yeah, so, you know, Detroit was a fantastic upbringing for me and my siblings. You know, we lived in Northwest Detroit the majority of my life, and my parents worked for General Motors, and, you know, we grew up like, you know, every average kid in the city of Detroit and attended Detroit public schools. And, you know, I just have to say that was probably, I guess, the greatest preparation I could have ever had. You know, the foundation was strong. Our community around our schools were just great. And, you know, to this day, all of my siblings still live in the Detroit proper area. And you know, I'm back in the area 2 or 3 times a year. So it was a great foundation. You know, my parents did a lot to make sure we just really absorbed everything about the city, everything about our family life. And it was a great grounding.
And what kind of expectations, I think, growing up was there for you and to kind of move out into the world? Sometimes when I talk to people, you know, they know from early on where they're going to go and where the path leads them.
Yes, you know, I actually didn't know where I was going to go, but I knew I was going somewhere because my father reminded me of that each and every day. So, you know, there was a really high expectation for education in our family. My parents didn't have a college education. They wanted that for all 5 of us. And so when I think back on the discipline around our household, you know, we had great conversations at the dinner table, but the most important thing was that we were at the dinner table. We had assigned seats at the dinner table. And, you know, my parents had a very hard work ethic, as most Detroiters have. You know, we know how to get up at 5 a.m. and walk through the snow to, you know, catch public transportation or jump in a vehicle, you know. So it starts, you know, our days start early when you're in Detroit. And you know, that's all I ever knew. And my parents expected a lot out of us, and we were encouraged to deliver good grades. We were also encouraged to not only do well at our studies, but, you know, we had to select an instrument to play or a sport. And so for me, it was music for me.
What did you play?
I played both violin and piano almost all of my life.
That's great. You know,
not now though. Let me be clear. No one asked me to play piano, violin now. That's in my past.
Wait, this doesn't happen at family gatherings? You don't have to pull the violin back out?
No, we don't have jam sessions like that. No.
You know, I think the power of the dinner table, though, you make up a really good point in terms of when we're parenting and we're talking about our kids about what the path will be and what the next journey is. The power of that communication with our kids is so important.
Yeah, it is. You know, I've tried to do the same thing with my 2 children at our house. You know, we sort of hold the dinner table sacred, you know, but, you know, the conversations, they're pretty broad, you know, as things have happened in our lives. And so it is a way we convene and come together on a regular basis. And it's almost a ritual for us. We look forward to it.
Let's talk a little bit about decision making. And I think going along the journey that you have with your career, sometimes I think we can all get stuck when we're in our own professions about when the next time to move will be, when would be the next leap, and how do you make that decision maybe to even push yourself out of your comfort zone. And when you moved from Sam's Club and then moving to Starbucks, you sat on the board of Amazon and then making the leap to Walgreens. Kind of take us through how you make those decisions about when it's time to go and when you're looking for the next thing and where you find that inspiration.
Sure. So, first of all, I'm not the kind of person that orchestrates everything so perfectly, but I will say that I love a good challenge. And so when I get a little bit complacent, and it's not so much about the next promotion, it's about what's fueling my engine. And when I feel that getting a little bit too calm and too uneventful for me, I began to think about what's next. And I've been fortunate that some things have come my way, and then in some instances, I've made them happen. I was very intentional when I decided to leave Walmart and Sam's Club back in 2016. I was very deliberate. At that point, I wanted to do something different, and Starbucks came along to be a member of their board of directors. And that's what I thought I was going to do at that point, is have board service. And lo and behold, I was probably on the board maybe 4 months, and they asked me to come inside and help operate the company. And I enjoyed it so much, I had really fallen for the company at that point, sitting on their board, that I made the move. And then, not too different coming to WBA. We're in the middle of the pandemic. We're serving coffee, and which was very important. People needed their caffeine during this time frame, and we were there to answer that call. That was sure. Important. But even more important, on a more serious note, is the ability to administer vaccines at this time and think about what's next in healthcare, because this pandemic has uncovered so many inequities that I felt like at this point in my life, I really want to be in the center of change. And so this was a prime opportunity to do that. Wasn't perfect with everything else going on in my life, but sometimes great things never are. And so I'm really glad I made the move. I've been here for 6 months, and I feel really good about the work we're doing right now and the way we've been able to deliver vaccines to really some communities that probably would not have had early access as we've been able to provide them.
And I do want to talk about how Walgreens Boots Alliance has really maybe changed in how they're interacting with the community and their customers. Yes. in a different way. I do want to touch upon when you talked about challenge and feeling that challenge to move to the next opportunity. And you never said fear in there. Is there ever a healthy fear that you need to have when you're making those decisions, or is it always stick to what you believe is the inherent thing that drives you, which is challenge?
For me, when I feel the intensity of fear, it actually makes me feel like I'm making the right decision, right? Because if it's too comfortable and I'm not feeling a little edge or a little nudge, that means, it's probably time to just stick that foot right in the door. So I usually try to use fear to motivate me versus to, depressing my decisions. And so that's always been in my DNA. And, I think it's what gets me, to thrive every day. None of these jobs have been easy. So, you wake up every morning with a little bit of intensity, but just addressing that every day gives me energy.
I love hearing that about what personally drives you. It's interesting then, because then you have to develop your own leadership style. And through the years, all as leaders and as women leaders in the room, we have to figure out what works. And I think we've all been in workplaces where people have led with fear, people have led with disorganization, and it trickles on down through the organization. So you use a personal driver of challenge, but how would you describe what your leadership style is when you're in the front of the room and now leading a company like this?
Yes, I have probably trained myself to be sort of calm under pressure because I'm constantly under pressure. So, you have to find your spot where you feel good and you get that center. So,
and you don't want to burn extra energy fretting about things. You know that it's coming, and
Absolutely.
There has to be some kind of evenness.
Well, the other thing is that when you are a leader, I know that, in order to motivate a large team and get them to rally behind you, you have to be calm, you have to be clear, and you have to be confident. And I want them to feel the same way. So I don't want to transfer fear to the rest of my organization because that's going to be my problem later on, right? And so in the middle of a storm, someone's got to step up and really give people a vision and give them the roadmap and the confidence that, we're going to move ahead. So I think I've developed that over the years just because I've been in front of some pretty big confrontations and, in front of, some large issues to resolve and problems to solve, even strategically. And so my DNA has been to accept the fear, turn it into challenge, and then turn it into execution.
Can you share with us maybe what one or two of those big problems are really huge challenges that you just had to stand straight and go, this is what we're going to do?
Sure. So it's been a few of those, but I do recall when I joined Starbucks, I'd been in my role for maybe 6 months and operating, the company. We had an incident in one of our stores in the city of Philadelphia, a city that I'm very familiar with. And it was a situation that involved 2 African-American males, and probably many know this story, but at the time I was so new to the company and just learning the culture. But I knew that there was something wrong because Black social media was pretty hot. I was getting contacted by every family member, friend, first grade teacher, letting me know what was happening in Philadelphia, even faster than the company could make all of us aware. And I knew then, just looking at those 2 gentlemen having a son about their same age, I knew that I was going to come at this in a very personal way. I was going to address the situation as a mother, as a Black woman, and as a leader that really I felt quite responsible because I was running those stores at the time. And anything that happens in those stores is my responsibility and likely my fault, right? Of a decision we made or didn't make. And I knew then we were in trouble, and I knew that it was going to take a unique set of actually examples and solutions to get ourselves around that impact that we were having at that store.
Talk to me about some of those decisions, some of those conversations inside the room.
First of all, the 2 gentlemen were arrested, and I know what happens when Black males can be arrested, right? And what those next few hours can be like. It can turn out very well or not so well. So I had an immediate sense of anxiety just worrying about them as a mother would for any child. And then I knew I had to work 2 systems, my own company and then the public. And then the policing situation in the city of Philadelphia. This happened on Spruce and 18th Street in Philadelphia. And if you know that area, you really have to know that area. And I did. And it was interesting to interact with the Philadelphia community. They were open to hearing new solutions, but they were holding us accountable. They wanted solutions to this. They wanted to know that it wasn't going to happen again. So we put in place some pretty expansive work. We closed our stores for one day of reckoning, I will say, and we did a session on anti-bias training, and it was really a game changer for us because it was the beginning. It wasn't all that the company did. It was just the beginning. But to get everyone's attention, we had to make sure that we meant business and that we wanted everybody to take a different stand on how you treat people when they walk into the store and that everybody is welcome. And so that work was, I would say, changing to the industry of DE&I. I don't know many companies would have walked away from that level of profit, but at Starbucks, they are very committed to doing what's right when no one is watching. And we brought our principles and our culture forward, and that's how we operated through that situation. And I'll have to say it was our reason for making some significant changes in our DE&I profile.
You have been an advocate for inclusion and for diversity in companies. I know that you have probably, through your career, walked into a room where not only have you been the only woman in the room, you have been the only Black woman in the room. Tell us how you have navigated that in the past, and maybe give me a pivotal moment when you realized that you were in a position to make that change and to change the corporate culture.
Sure. So there are many times, and actually still to this day, that happens, which is quite unfortunate. I still hear my name, in connection with the first of this and the first of that, and it's pretty shameful.
What does that make you feel?
Sometimes it's embarrassing because I feel like, I'm responsible for a little bit of that, and I do everything I can to try and reach back and pull up and place women and minorities, people of color, in positions, and try to create conversations and environments that will help us be able to include more diversity in the boardrooms that we all see across the nation and across the world. And so I feel somewhat responsible for that, and I do what I can. But also, too, I feel a sense of responsibility to sort of show up well. And, many times when I walk in the room, I know, there's a likelihood I'm going to get a question that could, for some might feel insulting, but for me, I look at all of these things as teachable moments, when maybe I am confused for, maybe not the CEO in the room, but maybe someone else in the room. And when I'm in a room of all executives, why wouldn't I be an executive too, And so I've had to confront those issues, but each time I do it, it's a teachable moment. And I think, I see people learning from me sometimes and say, I can't believe you handled that way. Or, I actually sometimes will lean over to the person next to me and say, next time, do X, And I try and help people along that may not have the experiences that I've had, or are truly, a little out of touch.
Inclusionary hiring is a deliberate choice. What would you say to people who are sitting out here right now who have those decisions to make? And you need to back that up with real action and not just a figurative, well, we'll hire one person of color here or one woman here and fulfilling kind of quotas. How do you change the mindset of the decisions that the company is making?
Yes, they actually don't have a choice. I think it's just been well understood that, diversity of thought, let's just forget race and gender. Just diversity of thought makes a big improvement in the outcomes of your decisions. I can remember times where I just had to create an agile team or a sprint team and put a tech person in the room with a finance person, with a communications team, and give them a big problem to solve. It's always been a richer outcome. And if you take that one other step and say, now let's place, race and gender diversity on top of that, you have an absolute recipe for success. And in every time I have changed up the thought process in the room, I've come out richer from it. Absolutely every time. And I don't think that companies have a choice other than to do that now. These issues we're facing are very complex. I can remember early on in my career where we maybe had, a financial performance issue. You could pull one string and it would be fixed. The strings are pretty long now, and there's several. And so there's not any decisions or issues that we face that doesn't involve both the public sector, the private sector. It'll just very simply, hiring a Gen Zer into your organization while you have some of your seasoned talent in the room. Those challenges, to get those teams to merge together and make decisions. These issues are very complex, and we need diversity of thought, race, gender at the table when we are confronted.
It does. It changes a room when you have so many different voices in there, but it's also setting people up for success as well. It's not just putting them in place and saying, go ahead, have at it. It's building the things in place to make sure that there are mentors within the company, to make sure that there's a trajectory for people so they can see that there is growth for them. And it ends up being a better organization as a whole.
It does. And actually, when it comes from the top and someone has said, I want you on this project, they begin to think about, wow, I mean, I've been selected. I've been seen, I've been heard, somebody recognizes me. And that goes a very long way. That goes much further than a promotion sometimes, and any financial impact you can give to people. People are motivated by how much they're valued. And most people are not valued by dollars. They're valued by how you feel about them, how you see them, how much you want to be in their company. And that is a very strong motivator.
Let's talk about taking over a company, Walgreens Boots Alliance, during a global pandemic when community health care is so important. You alluded to it earlier today about the role that Walgreens and other companies are now playing with community health. Talk to me about how the pandemic has changed the way Walgreens is interacting with its customers.
Absolutely. First of all, our pharmacists have played a phenomenal role in vaccine execution. They have been, right on the front line of delivering the immunization when someone looks back at them and says to them, I think you just saved my life. Early on during the pandemic, when people were so worried and so unaware and access appeared to be so limited, you needed a company like Walgreens that had 9,100 locations in the United States, where we were capable of delivering 20 million vaccines to medically underserved communities in the United States. That's pretty impressive. We were very deliberate about that. We said, we are going to bring it to you if you can't get to it yourself. We worked with the Black interfaith communities and developed clinic centers in churches, in communities where people are immobile. We worked with our partners at Uber if you didn't have transportation to get to one of our immunization sites. And so we actually went all in on vaccine equity because we knew that was a game changer because, I know we're 18 months into this and sometimes we forget, but if you recall, this was impacting the Black and Hispanic communities much greater in the beginning. And they were the most immune compromised. So we went after that because we knew our customers needed us the most. And so we've been very deliberate about that. We've delivered now over 30 million vaccines total and continue to do so right now as the plans are adjusting and we're going into third dose and boosters.
Yeah, I was just going to say the cycle is going to continue now all over again. And for a lot of people, their connection with their local pharmacy is very personal. And Walgreens can play a role in that. Talk to me a little bit, though, Roz, about how WBA can differentiate itself from the CVS's of the world, from the Rite Aids of the world.
I think, first of all, we have a different footprint in terms of where our stores are located. So we're in those, we're within 5 miles of 75% of the U.S. population. So that gives us immediate access. I don't think other retailers can make that statement. I think also, too, our pharmacists are extremely well trained. And during the pandemic, our pharmacy techs have been expanded in their training and development in addition to our store managers. And so we have a team. When you come into a Walgreens store, and this is true for our Boots stores also in the UK, is that you have the ability to be addressed as a customer that just needs a quick take and go, or a patient, because we know sometimes when you walk in our stores, we're the first person you have seen since you've probably been given an unfortunate diagnosis. And, when you get that diagnosis, you go into a different place. But by the time you get to the pharmacist to pick up your prescription, you're almost ready to listen. And our pharmacists are well prepared to do that. We're doing a ton of work to actually automate the processes behind the desks so that our pharmacists can turn away from the phones and other work so that they can address the customer and the patient head on, face to face. And many times we see other things happening in their lives. We see patients who are sharing prescriptions, so we know that we need to talk to them about the affordability and other options. We know we can talk to them about healthy living. And so our pharmacists can be great consultants when patients and customers need them the most.
Talk to me a little bit about taking care of your workforce beyond your pharmacists. I hear that you're going to be boosting wages to a minimum of $15 an hour.
Yes, that's exactly right. So we did make that decision that we're moving towards $15 an hour. And in addition to that, we're recognizing, too, the work that our pharmacists and pharmacist techs have done over the past year, and you've probably seen some announcements around that as well. So we do understand, just how important it is for our employees to be able to, have a very fruitful life. They do some of the best work for us, and we want to reward them, and it's important to us. So we are moving in that direction. You'll see further training and development coming because that too is important. The financials are important, but training and development is really important. It's critical for them. It's where they get most of their self-pride from. And it's where, we meet at a mutual ground. We want them to be at Walgreens Boots Alliance. And so that development is just as important.
Yeah, and retaining talent, that's something that we are talking about here up on Mackinac and across
Yes.
Michigan, about making sure that you keep the people that you are and then recruiting even more. How has the pandemic changed the way WBA is dealing with employees in terms of flexible employment in different kind of hours
Yes.
and meeting people where they are? And is that going to stay?
You know, for us, we're planning for it to stay. We've been doing work, studying the future of work, not really so much because of the pandemic. We would have done this anyway because the work environment is changing every day. And so for us, the real answer is flexibility. So I'm sitting now in the Chicago office, just north of Chicago in Deerfield, Illinois. And, you know, our plans are to be flexible and have people come back to work based on when it's best for them and the way that they need to come back to work. So we'll have a flexible work arrangement. It's in our plans. Right now, we're working towards making sure that everyone is vaccinated before they come back into the office. And, you know, we are a healthcare company and we believe in science and we believe in the data. And so with that respect, we're asking everybody to be vaccinated as well.
You know, I think sometimes workers, we can be concerned about how much we share with our employers about how much flexibility that we need. We don't want to appear weak. We don't want to appear that we need a lot of accommodations for us because maybe we're caregivers at home, or maybe something has changed with our kids and with schooling and moving through the pandemic. And we've seen, Roz, a lot of women drop out of the workforce because of what's happened over the last 18 months and other obligations that they've had. What are you doing to try to encourage retention at that level, especially making sure that women can get back into the workforce and still have that kind of flexible schedule, but giving them the opportunity for productivity that they are so capable of?
Yes, it's very disappointing what we've seen in the numbers of women leaving the workplace. And that's why I'm so committed to having flexible arrangements and creating an environment where our employees feel comfortable. And let me just say, it's true for our young dads as well. They want flexibility as well. And so we want to have an environment where you go to your manager and say, you know, what works best for me is a 3-2 work week. And those 2 days happen to be Tuesday and Wednesday. And so then we'll adjust accordingly. The other thing is that it starts at the top. My team can count on me to see that I am actually going to work a flexible, the days that I'm in the office and the days that I work from home. And it makes me stronger. One of the things I learned about myself was that I'm at my best when I can get exercise in, when I can, you know, have a healthy meal. And so just those simple things, if I can make that happen in my life, I think I deliver more at the office. And we've not seen an impact to productivity. So if we can meet people where they need to be, I think productivity goes up.
How would you say, or what would your advice be to people who are maybe looking to engage with their managers, to talk about maybe some changes in their life, or say, this is what I'd like to go for, knowing that things are a little tenuous right now in the workplace, you don't want to jeopardize what you have, maybe you'd like to move forward, it feels like we're sometimes all a little bit on uneven ground. How would you tell us to say some of these things and articulate that?
You know, what I would tell anyone is that, you know, if you don't say something, I think you're harboring emotions and feelings that creates an uneasy relationship with your leader. And so just having that open conversation, at least you're giving your leader a chance to respond. Sometimes they just want to know. They want to know that you're committed to the company. You know, if I had someone come to me and say, look, I love WBA, I want to be here, but for the next 6 months, I need to, you know, be off every Friday because of X. I would love that because, you know, their primary commitment is that they're making a commitment to me, to this company. And I want that more than anything else. And I'll try and meet them halfway. I hope that I can encourage all of my managers and people leaders to actually model that behavior.
Roz,
but you have to have the conversation.
Yeah.
You have to.
You've given us a lot to think about today and some really powerful leadership tips. Real quick, tell us some of your favorite things about Detroit. 3 favorite things you've got.
Oh my God, I love everything new downtown. I love the renovation of my high school, Cass Tech. I love a Michigan summer, and so do my kids. They have never missed a Michigan summer. We even snuck in town a little bit during times where we shouldn't have been traveling because they have to see it. So there's nothing like it.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. Roz Brewer, thanks for the time today. Everyone, Roz Brewer, CEO of Walgreens Boots Alliance. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.